White furniture backdrop. Check. Some actual effort put into my appearance. Check. Still wearing pajamas from the waist down? That's a big check. First YouTube video, let's go! So, I suppose first things first, welcome to my channel. If you don't already follow me on Instagram, then first of all, I have no idea how you found me here, but hello, my name is Michelle. I do a ton of crafts, and I like to post them all over the internet under the alias The Giddy Stitcher. This channel will end up including everything from kind of craft diary, vlog, existential ramblings to weird maker adventures and 3D printing my own accessories and whatever else I can think of. For today, let's just start things off simple. It's the first of the month, and what better time to take a look back at where exactly we are and the state of my crafting life in general. Just a disclaimer before we start. You'll notice this video is called Not-a-Flosstube. I am a relative newcomer to watching Flosstubes, and I'm not sure exactly what the done thing is here, but I do multiple crafts. I do a lot of cross stitch. I'm dipping my toes into embroidery, but there's a lot of other stuff too. And I don't really know what the etiquette is there in terms of putting other things into a video and still calling it Flosstube. Maybe I should not be using that word. Maybe someone is in charge of the term and I just have never heard of them. But I guess we'll see. I'll stick with Not-a-Flosstube for now, and if I get a lot of angry comments, then lesson learned. So to start, June was actually a bit of a weird crafting month. In May, I went through a bit of a sequence of finishing a few projects all at once as part of Stitch Mania or Stitch Sania, or it was supposed to be Stitch Sania, but I ended up with like 15 goals, so there's not much saying about that, and frankly they did not all get done. I did get a few things from my hibernating pile onto my finished pile, which was quite nice. And then halfway through June, I think I kind of had a sort of delayed burnout reaction to all of that furious finishing and just stopped crafting. You may have noticed no Instagram posts. That's, well, if I'm not crafting, I've got nothing to post about, have I? There was some progress in the first half of the month, so I'm just going to focus on that. Towards the end of May, I picked back up a blackwork piece that I started last year, also as part of Stitch Mania, and I just never really got any further with. It's... Okay, I'm realising right now that starting off in my first YouTube channel with a pattern name that I don't know how to pronounce was not the right idea, but I'm going to go with Fleur de Net by Chelsea Buns Cross Stitch. I'll put up a picture of what it's supposed to look like somewhere over here, I guess. I don't know. YouTube magic. There we go. So this was a free pattern released as part of that whole Be Well and Stitch movement that went around last year when we were first all asked to stay home. And I knew I wanted to stitch it straight away, but I spent forever trying to decide what colour. By the time I got round to it, I think Be Well and Stitch had pretty much run its course. So this is kind of my progress this month. I had this central diamond completed last year, but that's all I'd done, and the rest I've done kind of since the end of May. It's really pretty. I really like it. As I said, I had originally planned to do this in 2 colours, but when I picked it back up, I just thought, why? You know, this orange is pretty. Keeping it one colour means it's more of an easy stitch, because I can just pick it up. There's always a trailing thread. I know what colour I'm doing. I don't need to keep track of where I am and where I need to switch. And I do a lot of my stitching on this when we're just watching TV at night. So yeah, that works really well. Just gonna hold that up again because it's pretty. I assume this pattern is still available for free. If it is, I'll link it. But honestly, I don't know. I would really love to finish this one in July. So I guess that's our first thing for the July to-do list. Okay, I've got a couple of sals on the go, and before I talk any more about them, I just want to address the fact that I call them sals. because I have heard some people pronounce it SALs every time, and that seems like a mouthful to me, but I don't know if that's the official way, and I've just started saying sal in my head. I can't think now if I've ever heard anyone else say it out loud like that. So if that is wrong, well, come at me, I guess. So the first sal that I have is the Parks and Recreation stitch along from the Enablers group on Facebook. I'm not actually sure where they're up to with the release schedule at the moment, because it was furious and I did not keep up at all. And that was kind of the plan. I know the designer said that she was having to release them all quite fast just because of the schedule of sal releases in that group. But it did mean that there was just no hope of actually keeping up with it. So I'm just going to go back and complete it as and when. This is as far as I've got. In an effort to keep up with the milestones at first, I was attempting a self-made rule where half stitches would count for a section and I could move on to the next. However, I've still fallen off the wagon and not got back on in a satisfactory way. So that was probably a waste of time. I think the last part I was working on was this little bit down here, which is going to be a little calendar icon for the day that does not exist, March 31st. And I feel like that was only released 7 or so out of a lot. But yeah, one day I will get back on with this. I am actually having a strange problem with this, and I wonder if someone who's more experienced can help me out, because I do most of my stitching in hand. I don't have a frame. I sometimes use hoop for smaller things, but most of it I just kind of roll up the top and then hold it like that. I've never ever had a problem. But with this fabric, I found that it sort of started to stretch and pucker. You can't really see now because I ironed it especially. But yeah, it's worrying me slightly. Like, it's stretching the stitches, and I don't know if is that common with particular kinds of fabric, or is it a reason that people don't stitch in hand and I've only just come across this problem now? I don't know. But at least when I ironed it, it seems to have turned out okay, so it could be worse. Some of my little magnetic doodads got stuck to each other and fell off as I picked that one up, so we'll just edit that part out. So this is a piece that I have seen quite a few people that I follow on Instagram and also here on YouTube have been stitching, most of them much further on than me, and it's the gamer Pixels That Made Us stitch along from PixStitch. It's actually to raise money for Child's Play, which is a charity that provides gaming opportunities for kids in hospital, as I understand it. So the deal was you donate an amount of money to Child's Play, you email the receipt to the SAL organiser, and they will send you the pattern and add you to the mailing list. I believe sign-ups are still open, and as you are about to see, even if you sign up now, you're not super far behind some of us. The gist is that we're spelling out the word gamer, but each letter is built up from a ton of classic video game characters. So I'll show you kind of the little silhouette thing. I think the official release is up to R by now, but I am not. I am here. I hope it looks cool on camera because it definitely looks best from a distance. As you can see, I kind of got a little bored on the G and moved on to the A because that part of the A only needed 3 different colours and it was kind of a relief. I'm finding it a real slog with the constant changing of colours. I've never stitched anything like that before, so I didn't know if I'd take to it or not, but it's not my favourite thing. I do really love the design and it's going to look brilliant in our games room, so it is going to get finished, but yeah, it's just going to be a case of slow and steady and when I can face it, basically. But you know, I think what will help with this is if I focus on one letter at a time and don't let myself skip around like I did there, because none of the letters are complete and it's kind of depressing. So I'm going to focus on the G. I would love to pretend that as a July goal it's possible for me to catch up on this, but it's just not. So instead I'm just going to try and do the G. Baby steps, you know. Last one in terms of cross stitch. I actually did manage one new start this month, which was supposed to be started in May 2020. but that's just how it goes sometimes. So can you tell what it is yet? This is actually the beginning of Alpine by Satsuma Street, which again I did buy and kit up intending to be a start last Mania. Only just got around to it now. But I'm glad I have. Obviously there's not much in there yet. I got my little squizzer needle minder just to brighten up the whole thing. And also, to be honest, to remind me of which way up it goes. But I think the colours are really nice. I am going to have to substitute a few of them. I need to buy a couple that I don't have good substitutions for, but the rest I should be able to swap out. I'm just kind of going to see how that goes and change things out if they look wrong, essentially. I must have a real thing with mountains because I recently finished Sunset on Mountains by Pigeon Coop Designs, and I also designed a pattern of my own which includes mountains. So now I'm thinking about it, I'm maybe a little obsessed with mountains. But they're pretty and they make me feel good, so whatever. Okay, that's cross-stitch pretty much dealt with. Knitting and crochet this month is actually just knitting. For the first time in forever, I don't have any crochet projects on the go, so it's just knitting, but I started 2 new projects this month and also went in a huff with a third one, so I guess we should start there. I don't have it with me because it's currently in the naughty corner, but there is a bit of an issue with my Find Your Fade shawl. If you're not familiar, Find Your Fade is by, I have a note, Andrea Mowry. Andrea Mowry. And the pattern, I believe, took the knitting world by storm a few years ago without me noticing. And then I only discovered it last year and I saw all these beautiful shawls people were making and I was like, yes, I need one of those. So I scoured the house, I found all of the spare sock yarn, I posted comparison photos to help me choose which colours to go with, and eventually I got started. After much overthinking, I got started. Well, it's a year and a bit later, and after many starts and stops, I finally got to the point of adding the third colour, and I was so excited, and then I realised it's the completely wrong weight of yarn. Somehow, in my colour organisation at the beginning of the project, I just mixed up 2 totally different weights of yarn and hadn't noticed, and I have no idea how. So, suffice to say, that is in the naughty corner until I can bear to deal with it. Luckily there is some happier knitting news. I've got, as I said, 2 new starts, both free patterns. One of them is actually a paid pattern that I got for free, and the other is free. And anything with free involved, I am there. First one, I have it handy here. So this is the, doesn't look like much yet, beginnings of the Kala, I don't know how you pronounce that, Kala top by Pip and Pin. They sent round a email survey, and if you filled it in, you could choose one of their patterns to download for free, so yes. And what kind of monster gets a free pattern and doesn't just cast it on straight away? So here we are, I guess. It wasn't in my plans, but it is now. I did make a bit of a mistake with the front yoke, and it took me a while to fix, but now I'm picked up for the back, and it should be plain sailing from there. I just need to find time to work on it, which I guess goes for most of these things, but still. It's actually slightly odd construction. This you start at the, you cast on long tail for the shoulder seams, and you stitch the front yoke down, and then you put that onto waste yarn, come back and pick up stitches along the top, casting new ones on to form the back neckline, and then you stitch an identical yoke down the back and then join them, and after that it's just sweet stockinette in the round all the way down. So once I can get to that point, it should be pretty fast. I'm actually hoping for a sudden burst of productivity on this one because it'd be really nice as a summer top, and summer is like halfway over already without me really noticing, so I need to, get a move on there, I think. That can go on the list. Last but not least, it's a sock. It's a sock that I'm not sure how to present to a camera. Do you show it? Front on, side on, hand on. Okay, yeah, that gives a better idea of the stitch pattern, I think. Okay, this yarn. For my birthday last year, so this is May 2020, I got a gift card to a very expensive, posh yarn brand that I'd seen on one of the virtual Yorkshire Yarn Fests called Kettle Yarns. Absolutely beautiful yarn. So I got this gift card, and to buy a single skein of sock yarn, it still cost me £20 on top of the gift card, just for the one skein. Needless to say, this is the most expensive yarn I have ever owned, but it is very beautiful. I mean, look at it. And it's so squishy, I cannot describe it. I just want to rub it on my face at all times. The problem was, it sat in the cupboard, and I thought, well, the pattern that I use this for has to fit with such fancy yarn, you know? It can't just be any old pattern, it has to be something special. But that meant that I was just leaving it there and not using it. And what's the point in having such lovely luxury yarn if you're not going to use it? So eventually, I got annoyed with myself. I searched some free toe-up patterns, and I found this one, which is, I refer to my notes, it's the Double Eyelet Rib Toe-Up Socks by Wendy D. Johnson. Honestly, it's really simple. It's your basic sock recipe with a 4-stitch repeat lace pattern. There's only one of the 4-stitch repeat? 4-round repeat. And there's only one of the rounds that involve increases and decreases. The rest are just straight knit and purl, so it's super easy to memorize and just do anywhere. I did have some trouble with the heel because I foolishly took it to a family thing and turned the heel while trying to keep up with conversations and eat pizza. Do not recommend. But after a bit of emergency surgery, I'm looking at it now, and I don't think you would ever be able to tell there was a mistake there. Nailed it. I know a lot of people prefer cuff down patterns, but I've got to say, toe up all the way. I especially wanted it because I want to use up all of the yarn. It was so pricey and it's so nice. I don't want to waste any of it, and I don't know if I'm the only one, but with cuff down, I kind of chicken out and I start turning the heel too soon, and then by the end, I've got all of this spare yarn, but not quite enough to make anything out of, and it's really annoying. So I was really happy to find one that was toe up. It's simple, but it looks intricate, and I just love it with the yarn, and I'm really glad that I finally just pulled the trigger and made something. It doesn't matter that it's a free pattern, it doesn't matter that it's socks and it's not fancy. It's something I'm really enjoying, so there we go. Okay, that's about it for crafting this month, which leaves us with 3, I think we said, things on July's list. That's not enough to keep me going for a whole month. I need variety, so let's sort that out. Luckily, launching a craft YouTube channel gives you all kinds of deadlines for projects because you need to make videos about them, so we can populate this list a little bit more. If you follow me over on Instagram, you might know that I want to say recently, but it was actually a couple of months ago now, sewed a dress. This is my first time ever following a pattern properly and not just making it up as I go along. And it was really exciting. I entered it into the Frugal Frocks challenge and made a load of new friends, and it was super cool. And I was like, right, now I want to sew all the things. But since then, I haven't actually sewn anything else at all. And the reason is because I'm terrified to buy fabric. I think, on a bit of self-reflection, it is because if it goes horribly wrong, you can't just frog the yarn and use it again, you know? If I buy the wrong fabric, that's my fabric budget gone and it doesn't matter. If I buy the right fabric but I cut it wrong or do the wrong size or make an alteration or a mistake, anything that wastes the fabric, that is it. And so I'm just like in this weird paralysis where I don't buy any fabric for any of the things that I want to make. But there is one thing that I really want to make, and that is a playsuit. Because obviously I've mastered a sack dress made out of 2 bits of fabric, so now I can make really complicated things like playsuits, of course. So I wanted something very specific in my head and I couldn't find anything, but then I found a free pattern from Mood called the Lobelia dress, I believe, which has deep V-neck, big kind of kimono-y sleeves, exactly what I wanted from a playsuit, except it's a dress. So I figure, why not just make the top part of that figure out how to put some shorts on the bottom. It can't be that hard, and I'll be away. Problem with that is I haven't bought any fabric. So, July list. Go. Buy fabric for the playsuit. I'm not going to say I'm going to sew it this month, but to be honest, if I get the fabric, I will probably get overexcited and I will sew it this month. So I don't need to put that on the list and add more pressure on myself. That's obviously a summer outfit, and again, we are already in July, so like, just get it together, woman, and buy some fabric. The other big procrastinated task at the moment is making my second loaf of soap. Again, if you are on my Instagram, you probably heard all about my sudden, in hindsight, obsession with watching soap making videos. And I dove straight in, spent way too much money on supplies, and I made an unscented and uncoloured and totally unexciting loaf, which had a few poppy seeds in, just to give it something. Apparently what it gave it is a too scratchy texture, but, you know, lessons learned. The next soap that I wanted to make is more complicated. I won't go into too many details because I want to make a video on it, but my choices are questionable. My skills are not up to par, and the results are anybody's guess. So I need to just do it. I'm worried I'll do it wrong. I'm worried I'll burn lye holes in the kitchen countertop. I'm a little worried that my camera will fall into a scalding hot lye water mixture. There's all kinds of things to worry about with this, but honestly, I just need to chill. So, July list. You are on it. Right, so that takes us to 5 projects for the month, which I think is way better than my usual 15 or so that I end up with. And I think maybe they're actually manageable. That would be good. Now, I think it's customary in a real Flosstube video to put on a little section at the end talking about actual real-life updates. The problem is we don't really do anything. We live in a small town, we're nerds who are constantly attached to our laptops, and everything's been shut for most of the last year, so I have very little news. But I'm going to add this to my July list too. Do something interesting next month that you can talk about in the update video. There we go, that'll sort it. So over to you. Do you like to do this kind of thing? Do you set yourself goals on a monthly or whatever basis? Do you find that kind of helps you keep track of where you are with all of your projects, or is that just too much stress on what should be a nice, relaxing hobby? Do you think I've finally cracked making a list that isn't ridiculous and that I could do in the space of a month, or do you think I'm still aiming too high? Stay tuned to find out, I suppose. See you next time. In the meantime, keep making cool stuff.